Being a father means getting stuff done out in the world with people that aren't your kids, but then coming home to your kids, to your family, to your abode, whoever you have in there, and not trying to inundate those children with everything you just experienced. Being a dad is very hard, and working is very hard, and being an adult is very hard. We want to try to make it
All true.
a little less hard together as we talk about being a father next on the Dad Pod.
What is up? I am Daniel. He is Clint, joined by our good friend Josh. Josh, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm good. You just chilling out on a Memorial Day weekend. No
That's right.
beach, no lake, just hanging loose, trying to
Yeah,
just chill.
we did not get invited anywhere, the three of us on this Memorial. So thanks, but no thanks to all of our friends out
Oh, that
there
was
who own lake houses. But I guess maybe next year we'll catch you next year. I guess.
depressing.
Yeah, talking about coming home from work this episode on the Dad Pod. So glad to have you here. If you are a dad or know a dad, you can share the pod with them. Subscribe, leave us a like, all those things. Comment on the video. You know how YouTube works. Do those things.
That's exactly right. That you do know how it works. And if you're new to the Dad Pod, we're just getting this thing up and going. This is for dads by dads. We're all dads of various age children. Some of us who have children in later stages. Some of us have children in earlier stages. But we want to talk through how to not bring the stressors of everyday work, how to be attentive at home, and not how to have your kid try to demand your attention for that.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to get right into it. Then I'm going to ask, you're going to figure out who Josh is and who Daniel is, but I'm going to get right into it and see what you two dads have to say about this. And this one is for our own mental. This isn't a practical trick. This isn't a way to action orient. This is actually a definition in your head as it pertains to work. Your children, as you come home, want to know two things about you. They actually do care what you do. They do care who you are, because you are, by the way, an actual human outside of being a dad. I know that we have dad. Well, I know, Daniel. It doesn't seem like that,
Easy.
but we are actual humans. We do have productivity outside the home, and our children want to know about it. But our children don't have to know everything about it. So here's the first trick as you are coming home: how to end it well. Be attentive with your kids by keeping some facts that aren't pertinent to your kid's life away from them. Here's what I mean. If you had a particularly hard day at work, or if your children don't know what you do, how many times have you heard, hey, what does your dad do? And they say the title, but they have no concept of what that means. Share with them what it is you do, but don't share all the gory details of how the sausage is made. So if you work in a particularly hard industry, or with
Like
some,
like the sausage industry.
like the
Like
sausage industry,
if
literally.
you work in a sausage
Look, if
factory.
you work at Smithfield in South Dakota and those pork be coming in, I'm telling you right now, you don't want to know that.
No.
But think to yourself as you're coming home, give the gift of your children to invite them into your work, into your world, but omit some things that aren't necessarily their problem to know. Don't tell them the names of people you really, really don't like as you work with them. Don't tell them problems that you are having and stressors that are so mounting. Instead, just share simple statements like, "Yeah, this project I'm having right now is challenging me right now. I'm trying to grow in it." That's both truthful. You're sharing the emotion with your kid, and tell them what the project is. I have to travel a lot, or I'm working with this individual, and this individual and I aren't communicating well, and it's really frustrating to try to learn a new system for this person. Or, hey, I have to do a good job. Dad has to follow somebody else, and I don't really like following them, but it's my job to. It shows your children that you are an actual person. You have struggles, but you save them the gory details so they can both sympathize with you and learn more about it. And the second thing with that is tell your kids in detail what you are skilled at in your job. So if you are in the sales industry, instead of just saying, I go sell things to people, instead tell them, you know what? I really, really like getting to know other people and trying to match needs they have with products that I have to help them out. That way, they know a little bit more about sales, or they know a little bit more about manufacturing. and they enjoy it well. Those are two ways to come home
Mm.
well after a day's work, that your kids can enjoy you better. Josh, Daniel, has this worked for you? You guys know anything about this? Does this seem right to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think you want to let your kids know you are another individual outside of work. You want just all those things you touched about. I've got a little bit even more of a unique because I work in the movie business, right? Movie, TV, commercials, and stuff. So my hours fluctuate crazy, right? So I mean, there are lots of Fridays and that I'll come home at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning because that's when we film all our night work. It's at the end of the week and stuff. And I've done many a soccer games and many a Cub Scouts and many a things on literally no sleep. So talk about what when I sometimes just want to let because I'm not around because I'll work 12, 14 hours a day when I'm working full on a full-time TV show or movie and stuff. So honestly, when I get home, I always wanted to make sure that what energy I could summon to make sure that they didn't feel that I didn't just go to sleep until 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then just I wanted to give them as much time as I could. So one of the things I've always struggled with is that work life balance, and I've tried to help people in my business sort of think about and plan for that, because it is a true juggling act when you do this kind of work and stuff. And trying to explain to what my kids do, the movie business for a second or third, fourth grader or whatever sounds really cool. You're doing car chases and stunt work and stuff like that. But it takes
That's right.
it's a little bit like how the sausages get made. No, I'm just one person in an assembly line doing that sort of stuff. But they've gotten interested in it. They kind of get what I do. My work is very specific and very technical. I don't even think my mom, dad, and brothers know exactly what I do. So trying to get my kids to understand it but they're actually pretty cool. They get it. They don't brag about it. They don't, I don't get it. They get it. They get it. It's just a job. So I think that's pretty cool. And they don't want to get in my business, which is like the best thing I could have ever done to them is to not teach them to get in the movie business. But I really like what you had to say, explaining to them when you see, just everything in life when you're a dad at any age. I mean, my son just graduated high school. I'm still finding teaching moments, but sharing moments, teaching moments. And that's kind of what you were talking about, just, hey, I do this. Or if you're out and say, hey, that's kind of what I do, or you can see them that way you're with them as a dad, but you can share with them what's going on around them and say, hey, that person's doing this job. That's kind of what I do. And just find those teaching moments. And that's just one part of the relationship you want to kind of grow with your kids.
Yeah, Josh, I was gonna ask actually because I know your kids are a bit older than ours. You mentioned your son just graduated from high school. Um, yeah, maybe like talk if you could like about how that's changed. Maybe if like there's people listening that have younger kids and you're thinking about coming home, and it's a lot different explaining what you do, as you kind of mentioned. It's a lot different explaining it to a first grader than it is to a senior in high school or a junior in high school. And, because you're watching your kids as they grow, figure out and develop and maybe start to have, some thoughts about the things that they want to do with their life. And so are you able to, kind of be more intentional about the conversations that you have, even about your job and how that might relate to some things that they're interested in, or so, even though it's not your industry, which you seem happy about. But like, is that
Yeah.
something that you've been able to like see
Oh yeah, for
develop
sure.
over time?
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of what you were talking about, it's like if you find these teaching moments and sort of just make it part of one of the many things you're gonna have with your son or your daughter about what you're doing, and then you can build on that instead of just like not I don't think anyone ever purposely ignored it, but if you you talk about it when you're in first grade, and then when you're in second or third or fourth grade, then you can, they kind of retain that and they bring it back up and things start to add up. And it's not like a puzzle in the sense that you have to figure it out, but it is a little bit like a building block situation where they'll
Mm.
figure it out. But yeah, I mean, and, in fact, my son, my younger son is a freshman in high school. And like I said, my oldest just graduated high school and stuff. So I was actually asked to come in and talk to sort of the high schoolers about my career. And it was kind of interesting, and I could tell my kids finally got it, and it wasn't like starstruck or anything like that. It's just like, yeah, it's just a job. My dad's a cameraman and works on cameras and movies and stuff. And of course, it was kind of neat, different than a lot of the other kids' parents had done. I probably would trade with him, but especially right now because and then now it's kind of unique too because with the whole writer's strike going on, which has
Mhm.
affected me. They can see you talk about trying to explain that to a second or third, fifth, or even sixth grader. Well, there are 1,100 or 11,000 writers in strike in Los Angeles, and I can't go to work right now. So it's but definitely having those conversations and you build on them and stuff so that things start to click in and they'll grasp certain things and then they maybe not understand something, but in a couple years they remember it and then they'll like build on that. So yeah.
That's fantastic. These are great things to know. Josh, anything else? I'm going to ask Daniel here in a moment, but anything else you can think of that you haven't said already about how you come home, that you, again, as you've learned or as you tweaked, how do you come home well outside of what I had said before we go to Daniel?
I just think sometimes you just got to find that energy to, I mean, whether it's, everyone has ball busting weeks or, periods or projects that they're doing or things that they're launching and whatever. And sometimes sometimes your kids they don't need to care about that. You just got to summon that energy and be sure not to, you'll sleep when you're dead is one of the, one of the things. Just and hopefully that's not the case for a lot, because man, sleep is something and being rested and stuff. But man, just just dig down and find that energy, just to to make sure that that time with your kids is not impacted by what's going on around you and
Mm.
stuff, and they just want their dad or they just want their mom, and you just got to summon that energy to do that. I know we talk about sports a lot, so excuse me for bringing it up, but yeah, you got to finish the fourth quarter. You know what I mean? It's
Come
like,
on.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you just gotta dig deep, and that's I've done it a lot, and also when they get older, I can say this, they do understand. Hey, dad worked late, or hey, mom had a hell of a week. I can go fix myself a bowl of cereal or a pop tart or whatever, and man, those moments are great. And if your kids do know and you do have experience in conversations with them, they'll definitely pick up on that sort of stuff too. So it's you're all a family. It's like you guys are a team, and you just help each other. And as the kids get older, they'll help you, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's great. Josh stopped himself just short of saying "finish the drill" there.
He did.
Maybe
He did.
maybe some negative associations with that from his past, but finish the fourth quarter is a good lesson for dads as well. Yeah, I think a couple things, and one is just like, I mean, to me, it's just the dumbest thing in the world. But I remember I said it. I was having a conversation with a coworker a couple of years ago, and I mean, this wouldn't apply. Doesn't necessarily apply to every dad listening, but let's say that you're a dad listening and your significant other is home with the kids all day, which again isn't the case for everybody. Sometimes, maybe your partner is also working and you're working as well and the kids are in school or daycare or whatever. But let's say that they're in an age and a season where they're home with the kids all day. You I remember I had this conversation with a coworker, and he was just frustrated because he would come home and his wife would want him to be like interact with the kids while she like went on a walk or took a break, and he would always say like, well, I've been at work all day, like I've been working all day, and now you want a break, but like I didn't get a break all day. And I mean, to me, I didn't even think about what I was saying. I just said out loud, but she didn't get a break all day either, right? Like your wife didn't get a break all day. Like think about a time when you've been home with the kids all day and like just you all day with the kids. It's not a break. Like there are no breaks in there, especially if those kids are young. If there's more than one of them, like, I mean, it piles up and it's brutal to be there all day. And so to me, that's the number one thing when you come home. It's not even just about you interact with your kids for the sake of your kids, but you also interact with your kids for the sake of your spouse or your girlfriend or whoever it is, like, that has been interacting with your kids. And so to consider that person and that relationship when you come home from work, I think is just as important as it is to consider the relationship with your kids. And so, I mean, that's the first thing that I would say. And then the second thing I would say is right along with what you guys have already been saying, especially what Josh was just saying now. But I think it's important to remember that, like, everybody wants to walk into a great situation, right? Like, and if it's been a hard day, especially, like, everybody wants to walk into a situation where, like, everything's going great and everyone's happy and everyone's just, like, calmly doing their thing and going about their business, and somebody's going to check in with you and ask you how your day was and whatever. But, like, inevitably, when you've had the worst day at work, you're going to walk into an absolute dumpster fire in your house. Like, it's going to be, people are going to be shouting at each other. Somebody's going to be throwing things at somebody else. And, like, there's going to be a meltdown happening in the corner. And it's going to be a disaster inevitably when you walk into that situation, especially on your worst day. And so I think it's important to remember that, like, whatever day you want when you get home, you have to bring that. Like, you are that. You're that day. Like, you have to bring that energy. You have to bring that, like, whatever you're hoping they are going to be, you've got to be that times 10 when you walk through the door, no matter what they are. And so, and you're a dad. And so sometimes, again, you just got to suck it up. Like, you just got to suck it up and be like, yeah, I'm not feeling it. I'm very tired. I'm very angry. I just got screwed over on another promotion or project, or somebody just did something and I have to deal with this thing, or I've got 10,000 unread emails that I've got to respond to tonight. I'm going to work like after the kids are in bed. All of that may be true, but, like, you've got to be the guy that brings the energy for the rest of the house when you walk in. You can't expect your kids to do that for you, because they're your kids and you're their dad. You got to be that guy for them.
You're the adult in this situation.
It's a tough reality check, but you are, in fact, the adult. Yeah.
That's exactly right. No, that's really good. We're going to ask Josh. Josh, tell the people, you said you're in the movie industry, but you have some other loves and some other fantastic things going on. Tell the people who you are and give them a shout out to whatever they can find you, interact with you out. And then we're going to ask you a question after that.
I am affectionately known by some, not all, on the Twitter as Dog Stats. And I tinker and mess around with college football stats, and I jump on other podcasts talking about Georgia football specifically. I'm still kind of a behind-the-scenes contributor to DogCentral.com, which is a great insider and guru. Sorry. No, it's a great website of great community people. I enjoy being over there, and you'll find me from over there time to time. So, but yeah, I'm on the Twitter at DogStats.
Chances are Josh is the guy you've been arguing with on Twitter. If you've had an argument with someone on Twitter recently, there's at least a 30% chance it was Josh.
I was going to give it 20, but yeah, 30 is more appropriate.
Yeah.
I mean,
I can bring a hot take every now and then.
He's usually right. Just to be fair, just to be clear, he's usually right.
My favorite is when Josh has to school people just with cold, hard facts as they spout some ridiculous take. And he goes, "Well, have you thought about this?" And they're like, "Oh, dang!" And they have nothing. That's my favorite. Okay, Josh. Tell us, here's my question for you that we're going to do every guest we have on come on this. If you could tell dads one thing, it doesn't have to be about coming to work. If you just give one piece of advice that you've learned from being a dad, what's the one thing you want dads to know?
Enjoy the village. I think what you guys are doing is making a sort of virtual village of people where you can get advice, experiences. You can learn through other people's experiences, whether that's through your church, whether that's through your sports, or whether that's through activities and stuff. Find the time to just sit back and listen and have other parents of older kids or younger kids or whatever, and enjoy the village. For me, I definitely got a lot of advice at my church and my Sunday school, where we had didn't really, it wasn't designed to be like this, but we had parents with older kids, and we knew it was coming down the pipe. So
Mm.
yeah, I mean, find and just and find your village, and just listen, and realize that what those people are experiencing, it's going to come. And the more you listen and the more you gain from that, you'll be prepared, and fewer things, because you're never going to be prepared for everything, but fewer things will come as a shock.
The
Well
village
said.
mentality is exactly what we're doing here. Fatherhood is hard enough as it is. We're trying to make it easier on everybody, best we can, and that being fathers together is crucial. I love that so much. This has been Josh. Josh, Dog Stats. Go find him. Go follow him on Twitter. He's a great follow. Georgia football is what we love and how we got connected. And look, being a dad is hard. Let's do it better together. We'll catch you next time where we talk more advice and more insight on how to be a better father next time on the Dad Pod.
See ya.